I think what it is, I want to draw a distinction between the hunters and the gatherers. I mean, a hunter-gatherer gathers while he's on the hunt because he's mobile and he's moving. Whereas, there were gatherers that just kind of, ambled around and picked things. And then there were agrarian people, in a more fixed environment. But the true hunter, which I like that analogy that you drew, remembering that we're hunters and remembering how to hunt. I can testify from personal experience that, I would get, I want to say lazy, but that's not the real answer. The real answer is I would get afraid. When I worked long enough in a regular company job, and if it came time to consider, what am I going to do if the project ends? Or what am I going to do if my boss doesn't like me and fires me or lays me off? Or what am I going to do if I just find the work environment intolerable and they change a bunch of things and I just am going to leave? And you get that nervousness and anxiety about, wow, I have to get my resume in order. In fact, that's how they scare you. Your colleagues are like, better get your resume in order. And that's the scary thing, and I'm like, at that time, they're right. And what happens to me is I have to remember who I am. I have to remember what I am and what I can do. Sometimes getting the resume in order helps with that. You look at yourself and you go, hey, I kind of rock. Look at what I've done. That means I can do future things. But I think there's more of a in-stock assessment of your mobility and talent as a hunter. Sort of looking at the roster as like, well, I've been a reliable pig. I've been in many pens and I've had varieties of different masters. That's not what I mean. What helps me to not be afraid, even if I don't have a job lined up, when they announce that, I'm sorry, we're no longer funding the project or whatever it is and everybody's laid off. What helps me is the realization that I'm good at hunting and I can be good at hunting, that I can walk in and sell, that I can sit down and deal. And I think that's the difference between a person that's terrorized by the notion of taking all of the great benefits of being a contractor, the higher pay, the freedom, the flexibility, the diverse working environment, the challenges, the sense more that you run your own show instead of that you're inside the pen. You're the wild stallion and you're not the domesticated mare, I think that what helps me think that way is just remembering that, I really can go and sit down across a desk, and if somebody said, well, what can you do for us? Or what do we need you for? Or we have this project. Is there anything you think you can contribute to it? I've got an answer. And if I don't have an answer, the first thing that you have to do is kind of make one. You've got to look at yourself, take stock of what you can do, and develop that. It's like you're your own business. You are your own brand. You figure out what your core market differentiators are as a human being, and then you package those into your marketing content and your bullet points and say, this is what I can do and what I do well. And then you constantly add to those bullet points. And that's what a hunter does. He's always working on the skills. He knows how to kill with the knife and the gun. So I think that mobility, sure, yeah, there's other people look at it and go, well, that's risk, but I think what it is it's mobility. I think the hunter is not out there going, well, yes, it's true that if I don't plant for the spring, I might starve. He knows that, but he really doesn't have a lot of fear that he's not going to get something. As long as something's moving out there, he's on it.
Yeah, completely. I want to explore this idea of commoditization a little bit more because it touches on my view of economic evolution, and I have an assumption that all of our work is always going to be commoditized at some point. Will it be within 10 years, or will it take a lifetime and it happens in somebody else's lifetime? I don't know, but I don't think let's look at it in the opposite. In order for work not to be commoditized would mean it would have to be protected in some way, either through trade barriers or through government regulations or simply artificial barriers. Let's give an example of checkout services at the grocery store. If we did not want that work to be commoditized, we would say we're not going to introduce self-checkout. or even at the ticket counter at the airlines. If we don't want this work to be commoditized, we would not offer online check-in and electronic tickets and self-service check-in at the airport. So all of those things would never appear, and we would say, you know what, we don't want these jobs to be commoditized. My view is that all of our work everywhere will continue to change in ways that improve the speed of business, improve the efficiency, and therefore your work eventually does get commoditized. Even if you're thinking you're doing the most creative things, we are increasingly finding ways to automate processes and lower the cost of doing what we do. So I think what it means is we're always going to have to keep looking for areas where we add value. And as you pointed out in the non-domesticated example, we're always looking for the new thing. Okay, so if our usual meal isn't out there, but we see something else moving in the forest that might be good, and maybe we'll go for that. And the fun thing about being a freelancer or an independent contractor or in our business is we can jump on that first before anybody else because we're available to do it. So it's just a matter of having a mindset. But anyway, that's kind of my take on commoditization is, I don't know how many people would agree with that, but for me, it's kind of an inevitable thing.
I like, I'm big on that phrase, add value. One of the things I do is consulting for companies to build their internet marketing. And I'm always saying, look, you have to be able to add value. Otherwise, it's just fluff. It's sales lingo. And one of the questions that I always get asked, and this is not something I'm going to pontificate on because I don't know that I have the answer. I have some answers, and I'm wondering what your take is on it. I'm more curious than anything. I get asked a lot, I get some people whose eyes sort of glaze over. And usually it's two kinds of people. One is people that do a lot of manual oriented. I won't just say manual labor because there's not a single job these days that doesn't use a computer. I don't care if you are a checkout clerk or you're running a punch press. It's controlled by a computer and you're involved in some level of technology programming and operation. But I mean, sure, there's McDonald's, but even then, you're wearing a headset. So, but a lot of people sort of that do more manual work, or people that do work where they feel from a marketing perspective, everybody does the same thing. So, like a probate attorney or a real estate appraiser might both tell me, well, we all do the same things. There's no difference. There's really no way to make a difference. Now, as a marketing guy, I always tell them it's not true. I can point out differences, but that's who I see having the biggest struggle to keep themselves from feeling like they're being commoditized. That, for instance, those independent professionals are in a marketing environment where it does no good to market because all we're going to do is say the things everybody else says. It's just a mass sort of throw a dart at a dartboard to hit an attorney. So how are we any different? And also the more manual labor things. And what I have said isn't always the full answer. I've said, first off, brain work can't be substituted. Like in my field, I would call it brain work. If I wasn't doing marketing, I would do publishing. If I wasn't doing publishing, I would do training. I'm doing all of those things and several more right now, editing and all of it is brain work. And there's no substitute for, people think it's arrogant, but there's no substitute for brilliance. If you're brilliant, if you're really sharp and really, really perceptive and have honed that, you don't maybe have teeth and claws, like the bear or the tiger, but you've got that. But a lot of people look at that and say, but I'm not particularly clever in any one area. And then, I'll say if they're in trade, I'll say, look, there's no substitute for experience. The difference between a guy remodeling my house and framing a wall that's done it for 25 years and the guy that's done it for 5 years is visible. I can see the difference. I can see how long it takes, what he has to charge, his waste of materials, the precision, and the way he can compensate with anything that's sort of outside the realm of the normal. It's not just new construction. But a lot of people look at that and go, yeah, but it takes 25 years to do that. And a lot of people are just focused on price. And the last area, that I see as kind of immune to this commoditization is sales. I think I may have told this story, but I was at a furniture store that's going out of business, and I walked in and shook hands with the salesperson. I said, well, you'll land on your feet. And his eyes glazed over. I see that right away as a marketing guy, and I'm like, why? And as I talked with him, I realized he doesn't realize that he can go anywhere. He doesn't realize that maybe he's not any good at it, in which case he was in the wrong profession. But if you're good at sales, you can literally go anywhere, and if they don't hose you with the particular arrangement, if they don't say, well, you have to sell 400 sales before we give you anything, and then your commission starts. Places like that are not worth your time. But you can go to a place that's 100% commission. People, I couldn't live with the security. How do you do that? How do you know where your next paycheck is coming from? And the answer is, you are the one adding value, and the value is yourself, your capability that not everybody has. And if you can do it, you can walk into a place, own the sales floor, and walk away. But my question, and this was a long way to sort of get there, is, what do you say to everybody else? Or does everybody fall in those categories? Or is there another reason why people's eyes glaze over? Is it simply that people have forgotten who and what they are and have been trained to believe that they don't add value to a company, but a company adds value to them? Or is it all of these things?
I know it's more than that, but I do think it's a little bit of everything.
Let me phrase the question in a different way. How did you, Steve, you talked in our previous episode about having been a company man, and through and through, all the way through to the skin and down to the bone. And but you moved from that place to the place you are now. And so you don't see yourself as an easily commoditized person, whereas before you almost wanted them to commoditize. Use me, please. I am a tool. Commoditize me.
Yes. Yes.
What caused you to be able to make the transition in terms of your perception?
Oh yeah, that's easier to latch hold of. It was the assumption that at some point, someone was going to have that conversation that you suggested about Steve the pig, and lead me to the back of the barn, and okay, Steve, you're now retired, and it was so common, particularly coming through 2008, 2009, that assumption that, wow, when is our wave of layoffs going to happen? And even in an upbeat economy, there's always something that changes. There's a merger, there's an acquisition, there's a new boss, there's this, there's that. And there seems to be more in for me in my world and in my perception. There seemed to be more opportunities to be let out to the back of the barn than there was the opportunity for that one chance to have a nice long run in the pen. So I came to that conclusion that, well, it looks like I'm going to have to jump no matter what. I would rather jump at a time of my choosing than at a time of the pen keeper's choosing. And so that was really my motivation, is just a worldview, an assumption that there is no more permanent employment anyway. So what am I sticking around for? I need to go learn to live in the forest. I didn't entirely like it, right? I was domesticated. but when I did know that I would like living in the forest better. But it's like exercise. It's like all kinds of things. It may not be something. Well, let me go with that a little bit. Because the funny thing about exercise and being fit is, everybody admires someone who's fit, but to go through it, to do what we have to do, we don't all want to do it. We love the feeling we have when we're fit, but somehow there's not enough time or the willpower or whatever. And so that's what was going on with me. Is I knew I would like it. I knew I needed to do it, but just needed to push myself through and jump. And so now I am happy about it, and it is better.